Hello and welcome back to True Life Knowledge. And today we are going to continue with our commentary on the book The Art of Seduction. And I'm her host, and I'm going to comment on the book and let us see what does it have in store for us. It is pointless to try to argue against such power, to imagine that you are not interested in it, or that it is evil and ugly. Okay, he's saying that, but I do think that this sort of power is immoral, and even though somebody has this power, I think it should not be used against other people. I still believe that the best thing to do is to be honest with people and to tell the truth and to be direct, even though maybe in the short time it isn't in your best interest, but in the long term it surely is. He says, the harder you try to resist the lure of seduction as an idea, as a form of power, the more you will find yourself fascinated. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not. The reason is simple. Most of us have known the power of having someone fall in love with us. Yes, we did have, but it's not on every one of us to feel that way. So it's not so simple. It's not so black and white. Our actions, our gestures, the things we say, all have positive effects on this person. We may not completely understand what we have done right, but this feeling of power is intoxicating. Okay, if this is true, then I see why it can be intoxicating to some people. If power is intoxicating and if seduction is power, then it's logical that seduction, if it equals power, is seductive as well as power. It gives us confidence, which makes us more seductive. This, I think, it's true, because when we are in a relationship, we feel more confident, and when we feel more confident, we are surely more seductive. We may also experience this in a social or work setting. One day we are in an elevated mood and people seem more responsive, more charmed by us. Yes, this is true, and I think that this is what every one of us have experienced in our lives. These moments of power are fleeting, but they resonate in the memory with great intensity. Okay, probably it is true that the people that do not have so much seductive power, then maybe they think about that. But I think that most of the people, most of normal people, we do not think about those moments. So he says we want them back. Nobody likes to feel awkward or timid or unable to reach people. Yes, that's probably true. Naturally, we all would like to be loved and appreciated. The siren call of seduction is irresistible because power is irresistible, and nothing will bring you more power in the modern world than the ability to seduce. Okay, so he's making a case, but it's not giving us enough proof that it's true. So he's saying that seduction is irresistible because power is irresistible, okay, and nothing will bring you more power in the modern world than the ability to seduce. Okay, this is like his reasoning. Repressing the desire to seduce is a kind of hysterical reaction. Revealing your deep down fascination with the process, you're only making your desire stronger. Someday they will come to the surface. Okay, so he's saying that maybe that probably it will, but he is asserting that they will for sure come to the surface. Okay, it has not reasoned with me, but we will see in the future. Ovid, in the Art of Love, said, the first thing to get in your head is that every single girl can be caught, and that you will catch her if you set your toils right. Birds will sooner fall down in springtime, cicadas in summer, or hunting dog turn his back on a har, then a lover's blunt inducements can fail with a woman. Even one you suppose reluctant will want it. Yeah, nothing to comment. Then, Jose Ortega y Gasset on Love, translated by Toby Talbot. The combination of these two elements, enchantment and surrender, is then essential to the love which we are discussing. What exists in love is surrender due to enchantment. Okay, so he's saying that the most important thing in love is surrender. Maybe surrender to emotion, surrender to the other person, maybe surrender in general because we feel probably stuck, and enchantment, that we are enthralled by the other person. Interesting, but he's not telling us how to do that or how the other people does that to us. Friedrich Nietzsche in The Antichrist said, "What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness. What is happiness? The feeling that power increases, that a resistance is overcome." Okay, this is his opinion. To have such power does not require a total transformation in your character or any kind of physical improvement in your looks. Okay, that would be interesting for some people. Seduction is a game of psychology, not beauty, and it is within the grasp of any person to become a master at the game. Okay, that's probably a marketing tactic, because I don't know, I don't see that anyone could become a master at this game, but I don't know. All that is required is that you look at the world differently to the eyes of the seducer. A seducer does not turn the power off and on. Every social and personal interaction is seen as a potential seduction. Okay, so essentially he is telling us to train, so that every opportunity is opportunity to train. So if a person would like to become a master seducer, then he or she would need to act constantly. There is never a moment to waste. This is so for several reasons. Okay, let us see why. The power seducers have over a man or woman works in social environments because they have learned how to tone down the sexual element without getting rid of it. So he's telling us essentially that it derives from the sexual element without getting rid of it. Okay, women think we see through them, but they are so pleasant to be around anyway that it does not matter. Trying to divide your life into moments in which you seduce and others in which you hold back will only confuse and constrain you. Erotic desire and love lurk beneath the surface of almost every human encounter. Is this true? Is it true that erotic desire and love lurk beneath the surface of almost every human encounter? Interesting, because he used almost every, so we can make a case that it can or it cannot be. So if in a case it is not like that, then we can say yes, but he said it's in almost every human encounter. So better to give free rein to your skills than to try to use them only in the bedroom. In fact, the seducer sees the world as his or her bedroom. Okay, so he's telling us that essentially is a way of life and a philosophy of life. This attitude creates great seductive momentum, and with each seduction you gain experience and practice. Okay, so if somebody is trying to seduce us, then we could say that they had a lot of experience, and if they succeed, we can assume, if this is right, that what he said, that he has a lot of experience and that he's willingly training it, even with us. One social or sexual seduction makes the next one easier, your confidence growing and making you more alluring. Okay, so he's saying to us that it is just a psychological game, because if a person wants to improve her game, then he or she should train it, and with every win, with every prize, there comes the improved confidence, so the seducer gets even more confident. So it could be possible to become more seductive without actually trying to seduce anyone, but to imagine in our mind the seductions. People are drawn to you in greater numbers as the seducer's aura descends upon you. Okay, so now he's talking about metaphysical terms, so he's talking about auras, and the metaphysical aura descends upon us. Okay, it's interesting, but it does not tell us how these people do this. Seducers have a warrior's outlook on life. Okay, it's similar to what the ancient philosopher said, that all our life is like a battle stage, and that philosophers in the beginning were the warriors of the mind. They see each person as a kind of walled castle to which they are laying siege. So he's not saying that it's a kind of it's a kind of war game. Seduction is a process of penetration, initially penetrating the target's mind, their first point of defense. Okay. Once seducers have penetrated the mind, making the target fantasize about them, it is easy to lower resistance and create physical surrender. Okay, so he's essentially telling us that a seducer penetrates our minds, making us fantasize about the other person, and then when we lower our resistance, they create physical surrender, because maybe we trust them, believe them. Seducers do not improvise, they do not leave this process to chance. Like any good general, they plan and strategize, aiming at the target's particular weakness. Yes, but they should be good psychologists to see what are our weaknesses. And I don't think so that people in general think about our weaknesses, and I don't think they try to exploit these weaknesses. The main obstacle to becoming a seducer is this foolish prejudice we have of seeing love and romance as some kind of sacred magical realm where things just fall into place if they are meant to. I think that it is true that maybe we are too much, for example, too much try to be a realist, but much time I see myself becoming a romantic and thinking about love in this way, and I think it's the right thing to do, to think about love in this way. This might seem romantic and quaint, but it is really just a cover for our laziness. Or really, what will seduce a person is the effort we expend on their behalf, showing how much we care, how much they are worth. Yeah, but usually in our lives, it usually happens that the person who's trying too hard to get us becomes boring, and then we leave that person. Leaving things to chance is a recipe for disaster, and reveals that we do not take love and romance very seriously. It was the effort Casanova expended, the artfulness he applied to each affair that made him so devilishly seductive. Okay, he said Don Juan was many people, but Casanova, it seems, it was one person. And he was very artful, and he applied to each affair that made him so devilishly seductive. Falling in love is a matter not of magic but of psychology. Once you understand your target's psychology and strategize to suit it, you will be better able to cast a magical spell. So he's telling us that when a seducer comes after us, then he's trying to get to know our weaknesses, and when he knows our weaknesses, then he knows how to exploit them. And he's talking. It's the same probably in sales. A seducer sees love not as a sacred, but as warfare, where all is fair. So in his opinion, the seducers think that it's fair to deceive us and to use our own emotions and our own thinking about love in a romantic way to destroy us. Seducers are never self-absorbed. Their gaze is directed outward, not inward. When they meet someone, their first move is to get inside that person's skin to see the world through their eyes. The reasons for this are several. First, self-absorption is a sign of insecurity. It is anti-seductive. Okay, so he's saying that seducers are not self-absorbed, but they are absorbed in us. So when a seducer comes after us, he absorbs ourselves. Everyone has insecurities, but seducers manage to ignoring them, finding therapy for moments of self-doubt by being absorbed in the world. I don't know if that's true, but okay. This gives them a buoyant spirit. We want to be around them. Second, getting into someone's skin, imagining what it is like to be them, helps the seducer gather valuable information, learn what makes that person tick, what will make them lose their ability to think straight and fall into a trap. So, yes, he's saying that they are planning to destroy us like in a war, like they are planning their attack like generals and using strategies to get to know us. But are they really that a good psychologists so that they know how to get us? Armed with such information, they can provide focused and individualized attention, a rare commodity in a world in which most people see us only from behind the screen of their own prejudices. Okay, this is something he's telling us essentially, that these people will be focused on us, but even though maybe these people will use flattery and software on us, we can know that we are not their own by not looking at the words or hearing their words, but by looking at the deeds they do. Getting into the target's skin is the first important tactical move in the war of penetration. So maybe if they see us as enemies to penetrate, then they see us as targets, and their first move is to get under our skins. Jean Baudrillard, in Seduction, he says that disaffection, neurosis, anguish, and frustration encountered by psychoanalysis comes no doubt from being unable to love or to be loved, from being unable to give or take pleasure, but the radical disenchantment comes from seduction and its failure. Only those who lie completely outside seduction are ill, even if they remain fully capable of loving and making love. Psychoanalysis believes it treats the disorder of sex and desire, but in reality it is dealing with the disorders of seduction. The most serious deficiencies always concern charm and not pleasure, enchantment and not some vital or sacred satisfaction. Nietzsche said, "Whatever is done from love always occurs beyond good and evil." Robert says that seducers are the providers of pleasure. So seducers, they internalize the various ways of how to become the giver of pleasure. We are not talking about giving pleasure per se, but we are talking not about giving pleasure as sexual pleasure, but we are going to talk about giving pleasure as an act of making the life of the other person better. Then he is comparing our lives from childhood to adulthood, and he says that as children we are play constantly, and we can see that with our children. When they play, they are happy. When they go to school, they become unhappy because they are weighted down with responsibilities. And the same thing happens with us adults. When we get to work, we get weighed down by responsibilities. And if a person comes that is a great seducer, it is so much easier to deflect us and to move us if he uses pleasure instead of seriousness. He says that we are all waiting for pleasure, and some pleasures we cannot get by themselves. So in essence, we are all waiting for that kind of pleasure that only another person can give us. And the seducer probably fills in that role and comes to the aid of this, our basic need. He's probably thinking about whether or not we feel that or know that it is probably there. People, usually, we are bored. We are depressed. We don't feel good. And we are waiting for that some special person that can take us and make our world better. I think that's not a kind of maturity. I think that we as a human race, we should improve ourselves and get that basic needs taken by ourselves. I think that's part of emotional maturity and stability. Sometimes people, when we as people, when we resist, is only a way of saying that we want to be seduced in a way. And I think that probably some people want to be seduced. But what about the people that have, let us call that the complex of the savior? The people that have the feeling that they must save the other person. What about them? And what about the person that has the problem with many problems weight us down? In a sense, Robert Greene says that the best seducers are giving us the feeling that we need the thing that they are offering, essentially the same as marketing. But instead of selling us their car, they are selling us the experience. They are selling us the experience of pleasure. We as people are living in a world, and our world is like a stage, and every one of us is essentially playing a part. But seducers, they are not restricted by this part, and they have the archetype of Zeus, the insatiable seducer of young maidens. And Zeus' main ability is to assume the form of whatever person or animal would most appeal to his victim. So Green, in this case, is essentially saying that we should not be ourselves, like the saying goes, but that we should assume many mantles. And this is important because if we see another person that is taking on many many forms or is becoming many people, then we can say that that person is not sincere and true to themselves. So seducers, they like to perform, and we can see that they enjoy this game when they are seducing us. And he says that we are not weighted down by our own identity, so we don't need to be ourselves, or we don't need to be natural, or they don't to be natural. He says that this is something that makes us seduced by them, because they use fluidity and they become what we want them to be. But essentially he's talking about a general archetype, because I don't think that such people exist. He says that people don't lack more reality in life, but they need illusion, fantasy, and play. So in essence, he's making the case that we do not need to be more real, more objective, and so on. I am stating that we, as humans, we need to be more objective, more realist. But on the other side, he's saying that the seducers are using a weapon that is called illusion, fantasy, and play to seduce us. A very important piece of this puzzle is Green's statement that seducers are immoral or amoral in their ways, and for them it's all a game. I think that's bad, because seducers in this way hurt other people, and they are hurting other people, and so the people that are honest cannot get away in life, because most seducers hurt people, and that the pain remain with people, with us. Seduction is a form of deception, but he says that people want to be led astray, and that we as people want to be seduced. Probably, yes, probably some people want to be seduced and want to feel the feeling and the allure of being seduced. And he's making the case that if we didn't want to be seduced, then the seducers wouldn't find so many victims. Yes, that's probably true, but maybe they are searching for victims, and they are the people, the seducers, are using our own psychological weaknesses in order to get away with us. And that taking advantage of us, the people, this is what hurts us in the long run. And again, so this book, The Art of Seduction, is divided into two parts. One part is Green has deconstructed this process of seducing, and he is saying that we have some parts or some people, and then he categorizes it, and then in the second part we are going to talk about the seductive process. And here is something interesting. He says that when we know what type of person we are dealing with, will help us practice defense. Okay, then he goes on talking about how this book is composed, and at the end we have the quote from Natalie Berney, and she says, "Most virtue is a demand for greater seduction." So I understand this statement as saying that when we as people are saying that we need more virtue, we are essentially not asking for virtue, but demanding greater seduction. So probably he is saying that we want to be seduced. Okay, so as you have noticed, we have done a little bit of change in our tone. This series is my way to improve my English and to study this subject because deals with psychology, and I want to understand how we as a people can defend ourselves against this sort of manipulation and this sort of attacks on us and our happiness, because I believe that it is hard to be happy in a world where everyone is deceitful and where everyone tries to make advantage of us. So I hope you enjoyed this program and I wish you all a good day. So have fun, and the next time we're going to talk about the next chapter, and I'm going to try to make a resume. It's not easy because it's not as stated already a number of times, it's not my first language, but I hope you still enjoyed my speaking and my talking. So goodbye.